قل إنني هداني ربي إلى صراط مستقيم دينا قيما ملة إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a new value of Islamic values that I will be sharing with you, inshallah. Islam is a way of life. It's a religion. It is a philosophy. It is something that molds you into the perfect human being, and if not, a good human being. It shows you the mechanism, how to think, how to make choices, because life is everything about choices. These choices that may draw us down and drag us down to the lower earth, or may take us to the highest levels of heavens. It is the choices we make that define us. So Islam gives us a way of thinking and how to make our choices, because in life we have obligations that vary. We have things that are recommended and things that are less. Which one to choose? In Islam, we know that Allah preferred certain locations, Mecca and Medina, for example, more than any other spot on earth. Preferred months, like the 4 sacred months. Preferred nights, like the night of decree, Laylatul Qadr. Preferred days in the week, Friday, over the rest of. So there are a lot of choices to make. Also, when it comes to prohibited things, there are major sins, there are minor sins, there are things that are not recommended. And in order for us to evaluate, sometimes we're put in a situation where we have to make a choice between two evils. Islam tells us how to make that choice and to select the lesser evil. And this is what we will try to briefly discuss in today's episode: priorities in Islam. The Quran highlights this in so many places of the Quran, and it encourages us to know how to think, especially in the selection process, how to weigh the pros and the cons, because Islam is based on this, weighing the pros and cons, weighing the advantages and the disadvantages, and choosing the best of the two. Allah says in the Quran, righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west, but true righteousness is in one who believes in Allah, the last day, etc., to the end of the ayah. In this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal corrects the way we look at things. So it is not important to know the direction of the Qibla, where to pray to, when compared to the essential things such as the belief in Allah Azza wa Jal as the core, most important issue in Islam. Qibla is one of the conditions of Salat. You cannot pray without facing the Qibla. This is a condition, precondition. But this can fall and be exempted. like when you are traveling, like when you are lost and you don't know where the Qibla is. There are other reasons, disability. But you have no choice not to believe in Allah Azza wa Jal and in the day of judgment and in the angels and in the books of Allah, etc. You have no choice. You must believe in that. Allah Azza wa Jal also says, and follow the best of what was revealed to you from your Lord, which means that you have to prioritize and you have to select the best. Likewise, when the companions asked the Prophet ﷺ after an incident where some of them were put in a situation where either to honor the sacred months or to make their move and attack the enemies. So they made a choice. And the idol worshippers, the Arabs, and some companions blamed them for that choice. So Allah Azza wa Jal clarified that issue for them and said, they ask you about the sacred month, that is about fighting therein. Say, O Muhammad, fighting therein is great sin, but averting people from the way of Allah and disbelief in Him and preventing access to Al-Masjid Al-Haram and the expulsion of its people therefrom are greater evil in the sight of Allah. So here, when we see politicians doing what they're doing, when we see the audacity, when they come and say that the occupying Jews are being assaulted by those Muslims, those Palestinians who have no weapons. They have nothing. They're unarmed. They're civilians. And they bombard them with their fighter jets and their bombs and their artillery. And you get so-called world leaders condemning the unarmed poor Palestinians for not allowing the transgressors, the Jews, from slaughtering them like sheep. Why are they defending themselves? This is clear audacity, subhanallah. Yet, prioritizing things is important in Islam. The Prophet directed us so many times that there are levels. For example, Iman is 70 plus or 60 plus branches. The highest is La ilaha illallah, the lowest is removing harmful things from people's way. So there are branches, there are levels, higher and lower. And Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that my servant would not get closer to me with something that is more beloved to me, to Allah Azza wa Jal, than the things that I have mandated upon him, made obligatory upon him. So now we know, if you want to get closer to Allah, do the things that are mandatory and obligatory, if you want salvation. The good deeds vary. The Prophet ﷺ, after Fajr prayer and after the sun has risen, came back to his home and found his wife Juwayriyah sitting, making dhikr from Fajr till the forenoon time, the duha time. So the Prophet said, ﷺ, after I left you, that is to Fajr, I said 4 words, 4 statements, phrases, 3 times, which if they were weighed against what you have said today, meaning the whole day, they would have overweight it. They would have overweighed it. What are these 4 statements or phrases? Glory and praise be to Allah. Alhamdulillahi, or Subhanallahi wa bihamdih. Then the Prophet said, glory and praise be to Allah as much as the number of His creation, as much as pleases Him, as much as the weight of His throne, and as much as the ink of his words. Prioritizing. Select what is the most valuable and the least in weight. A man comes to the Prophet ﷺ and says, "O Prophet of Allah, when is the hour? Give me the date when the day of judgment is." The Prophet ﷺ directed him to something that is beneficial. If I tell you that the day of judgment is within 1500 years, what would that benefit you? But rather, the Prophet redirects him and says, ﷺ, "What did you do for such a day?" This is a priority, that you believe and act upon what you believe. And the companions knew this. May Allah be pleased with them. And they used to ask the Prophet ﷺ, what among the deeds are most beloved to Allah? So they know that there are categories. And the Prophet tells them it's salat, then being dutiful to your parents, then jihad in the cause of Allah. And the scholars say that once you acknowledge the fact of prioritizing your affairs, then your process of selection would be perfect. In the sense that if you know that this is better than this, you will choose the best all the time. Reading your wird, your portion of Quran, your dhikr, is extremely beneficial. But when a guest comes to your home, you have to do what a proper Muslim host does, and that is to take care of your guest. This is more important than reciting your word of Quran and making your dhikr. If you're engaged in reading the Quran, which is the best thing ever, if the adhan is called, then for you at that particular moment, closing the Quran and repeating after the mu'adhin is the best thing you can do at that time. And likewise, when it's the last third of the night, instead of doing anything that is beneficial, this is the time for night prayer, for seeking forgiveness, for making dua. This is the best. So don't go for something that is less. Which leads us to acknowledging that there are different fields for prioritizing our affairs. For example, in forms of worship, you have to prioritize in order for your deeds to be accepted. For example, a lot of the Muslims, when it is Fajr time and the congregation is on, the Imam is reading in Salat, the people are standing behind him, following him, we find a lot of the brothers from the subcontinent coming into the masjid late, and they start praying their sunnah, neglecting the Imam and his fard prayer. Definitely what they're doing is totally wrong and prohibited, and their voluntary sunnah prayer is invalid. It's not accepted. Why? Because the Prophet said, ﷺ, once the call for iqamah is done for the faridah, Allah accepts no other prayer. You have to interrupt your prayer, let alone not engage in one while the Imam is doing his prayer. Likewise, priority. Your priority is to perform your fard obligation. But if someone wants to perform Hajj pilgrimage on behalf of his deceased father, yet he himself did not perform Hajj for himself, then the priority is myself before anyone else. The Prophet ﷺ saw a man saying, "Labbaik Allahumma hajjan an Shubruma," wants to perform Hajj on behalf of Shubruma. And the Prophet asked him, "Did you perform Hajj for yourself before?" The man said, "No." The Prophet said, "Perform Hajj on your behalf, your fard Hajj, then later years you can perform Hajj on behalf of a deceased." And there are so many times when we find people being unable to make the right choice. When they feed the poor and the needy, which is a very good deed, yet keep their own children and family in need and in starvation. This is totally wrong, and your priorities are mixed up. If you see someone fainting or about to die while you're praying, and I've been asked so many times, a man next to me gets a heart attack, and I'm in the middle of the prayer, or even the imam himself. So what should the congregation do? A lot of the people say, it's none of my business. I continue my prayer until I finish it. And this is wrong. Your prayer can be offered later on, can be made up. But the life of this person is at danger, and you have to do whatever is needed to protect him and save him. You have to always give priorities to obligations and prohibitions. And we know that Islam is composed of obligations like praying, fasting, offering pilgrimage. This is an instruction to do. But it's also composed of prohibitions, things that are prohibited and forbidden, such as fornication, dealing in riba, stealing, murdering, etc. So what is more important? What has the priority? The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if I forbid you to do something, then avoid it. No compromise. I tell you not to do something, stop. And if I command you to do a thing, then do as much of it as you can. So when it comes to prohibition, it has a priority. If I have conflict of interest, I have something that is beneficial, but at the same time it is prohibited, then I have to follow the prohibition. For example, if I sell wine and intoxicants, it may soothe the problems and depression of some. It may help, as they claim, others medically. And it may bring me a lot of money, and I can become rich. Lots of benefits. But the prohibition and the disadvantages are far greater. So Allah tells us that it is totally prohibited and it cannot ever be permissible. The prohibition always outweighs the benefits and the obligation, if any. For example, kissing and touching the black stone when making tawaf is a great sunnah and recommended. But if in order to reach there, I have to push people and fight and punch, this becomes prohibited. Do not do it. Though it's recommended, do not do it, because the means that would take you there would be prohibited. Also, you have to prioritize when it comes to calling others to Islam, when you come to make da'wah. Allah says in the Quran, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that is best. So you must speak to the people according to their level of intellect, according to their education, according to what their minds can comprehend. You have to select the most important, then the least important, then the least important, because you have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to measure the consequences of your da'wah. And this is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ instructed Mu'adh ibn Jabal, may Allah be pleased with him. When he sent him to Yemen, he said that you will be giving da'wah, you will be calling people of the book, Christians and Jews. So let it be the first thing you call them to is Tawheed, that they believe in the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal and worship no one other than Allah Azza wa Jal. If they obey you, then tell them about the 5 daily prayers. If they acknowledge this and obey you, then tell them about the poor due, about the zakat, which is money taken from their wealthy and given back to their poor, and so on. So the first thing you prioritize in your da'wah is not for women to wear hijab, is not for men to grow beards. It is for them to worship Allah the Almighty alone and not to associate any other with Him. And this is one of the greatest problems of the Muslim Ummah. We find so many different groups and sects making da'wah, going out to call people to Islam, but they focus on prayer, on growing the beard, on using the miswak. And when you come to talk to them about issues of tawheed, of aqidah, they say this is an issue of dispute, we do not discuss in this. And they call people, some groups, deviant that is, may make their priority to be the khilafah. And they call people to that and they fight with people about that and they neglect everything else. This is not what the Prophet came ﷺ to call people to. This is not the Islam or part of the pillars of Islam or the pillars of Iman. So without knowledge, this is the result. And this is why I always say this, and I've been saying this for years. If you want to fight terrorism, especially in Europe and in the non-Muslim countries, you must allow those who teach proper Islam to come and communicate with their congregation, where they show them the real Islam that is not violent, that does not transgress against others. But these countries do not allow such preachers, scholars, students of knowledge to come. They allow Sufis, they allow terrorists, jihadis, they allow Shia, because these people serve their cause. But this is not proper Islam, and you will not be able to educate Muslims so that they would be prevented from doing something that is wrong. Only knowledge would help them and open their minds and educate them about prioritizing things. You have to prioritize caring about yourself first, then the closest family second, and then those who are after that. You cannot start by the furthest and leave your own flesh and blood. You, when enjoining virtue and preventing and forbidding evil, you also have to know your limits. You don't go to someone who does not pray and tell him that listening to music is haram. This is not logical. Go for the priorities, go for tawheed, go for prayer. And if everything is fixed, then you can go accordingly downwards. You need to focus most as a priority, not on the way you look, but rather on your heart. Because if you manage to fix your heart, this would fix the way you look. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah does not look at your bodies and your wealth, but rather looks at your hearts and your deeds. So focus on purifying your heart, and this is what we usually address when we talk about our beautiful values. Focus on fixing your heart, inevitably it will fix your body. You will grow the beard because your heart is inclined to sunnah, so you'll follow that. But growing your beard while your heart is corrupt and rotten, filled with hatred, envy, and grudges towards everyone else, this doesn't make any sense. You have to fill your heart with sincerity, with tawakkul, with the love of the Prophet ﷺ, with patience, with gratitude, with fearing Allah, etc. Also, you have to prioritize before doing something, whether the benefit is solely for me, intransitive, or it is for everyone else. Of course, the deeds that benefit others far exceed in value and reward that benefits me alone. And this is why the Prophet said, alayhi wasallam, the best of the people is the best to the people. And the Prophet said, alayhi wasallam, the value of a scholar over a worshipper is like my value over you. the value of the Prophet ﷺ far exceeds the whole of humanity. And this shows you how beneficial a scholar is and how less beneficial a worshipper is. And the most beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal is the most beneficial to the people, as mentioned before. Continuity is a prioritization when compared to doing a lot but little time. And this is why a sadaqatul jariyah, continuous charity that generates over time, like building a masjid, is better than feeding someone or a tribe for one day and it's gone. This is continuous and it's much better for you. Quality in contrast or versus quantity. Definitely quality always wins. And we have to select before buying lots of worthless things. You buy a big jewel, a big diamond that lasts forever. And quantity is not a criteria or a factor that has benefit in Islam. Allah says, but most of them do not reason. Allah says, and if you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. Therefore, we have to prioritize and we have to know what to do and what not to do, because Islam is a way of life. It shows us how to say the right thing at the appropriate time, because we managed, with the grace of Allah, to measure the consequences and we said it. It tells us what to do and when to do it, because we weigh the pros and cons. We know that it is a priority that we must follow. But if we fail to do this, this means that we've lost one of the great values that Islam has brought us, and we failed to share it with humanity. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Ramadan is here, paradise is near, the month of giving is here, giving the precious and dear. Show to Allah your love, hope and express to Him your fear. Ramadan is here, paradise is near. Oceans can't put off the blazing hell, while you can with a tear. When you enter paradise, all your worries will disappear. Ramadan is here, paradise is near.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. This is the time designated for your questions, for those who are happening to watch the program. I know that the timing is quite awkward because it's 2:30 p.m. in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, which means that almost the Middle East are either at work or at sleep. But the reruns, inshallah, would be watched by more than that. Maybe following years, if Allah permits us, maybe we'll make it, inshallah, between Maghrib and Isha. Allah knows what is best. But for those, a handful of people watching, if you have any questions, feel free to call. Sister Mahwish says, can you please explain the procedure of praying while sitting in a chair? Now, this question has two parts, let's assume. One, the part that deals with an individual praying on a chair. Two, the part dealing with an individual praying in the row in a masjid. For those praying alone, if you are unable to stand up, then you pray sitting down, you say Allahu Akbar. I'm sitting on a chair at the moment, and I'll go a little bit back like this. So I hope the camera is not affected. So whether I'm standing or sitting, I pray my normal prayer. When it comes to ruku', if I'm standing, I offer my normal ruku'. If I'm unable to offer my normal ruku' because of a back injury, so I sit down, I say Allahu Akbar, and I bow like this, a little bit inclined to the front. Sami Allahu liman hamida, I raise up. And in sujood, again I say Allahu Akbar, but I make it a little bit more steeper. Now, a lot of the Muslims ask about the position of the hands, because sometimes you see people doing this, as if they're Superman pose. What is this? They're saying, I cannot put it on the ground, so I put it in front of me. Others bring a pillow. A third portion bring a table, and they put their hands on it. All of this is nonsense. This is innovation. The way of doing it is putting and placing your hands on your knees or on your thighs and keep them there all the time when you bow and you prostrate. So I hope this clarifies things. You do not put it in the air or on a table or on a pillow. Secondly, when I am sitting on a chair, where should I place the chair on the row? Because sometimes we find people, when they pray standing up, they are like a foot or a half or two ahead of the row. So that when they sit for prostration and for tashahhud, they sit in line with the others. Is this valid? The answer is no. If you're praying standing up, this is scenario number one, you should be standing up with the row and your chair should be at the back. Okay, Sheikh, this would affect those in the second row. This is not my business. Allah will ask me about my place in the row. If I am a foot or two ahead of the row, Allah will ask me, why did you advance? So I have to stand at the same level of the row. But if I'll be praying the whole prayer sitting down, then I have to move my chair forward so that when I'm sitting, my back is exactly in line with the shoulders and of the people in the row. So I hope this answers your question. Brother Abu Ma'ruf from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. How are you, Sheikh?
Barakatuh. Hayyakallah, akhi. Barakallah fik.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to ask you the same question about the sitting positions.
Okay.
So in the mosques, usually there is a taqi, a long wall, you know. So if we sit on that and pray, also sometimes my legs are paining due to osteoarthritis, is it possible I can sit like that?
So you're talking about the back rest?
Yeah, backrest. Yeah, backrest. Yes, of course. I'm putting my feet as per the row. I'm not moving my legs from the row.
Okay. No, yes, no problem at all. As long as you have a problem with ruku' or with sujood.
Sujood, ruku, normal. I'm doing normal like people. Only I'm having problem for standing only.
Ah, okay. So you begin your prayer in the standing position, then you sit immediately because you can't stand.
Yeah, long after Fatiha.
And when the Imam makes ruku' and sujood, you stand up and make ruku' and sujood with them.
Normal, yes, normal.
As long as it is not possible for you, it is allowed. Meaning, in fard prayer, it is a pillar to stand.
Of course.
And this falls if you have a disability or if it is harming you or if it is totally distracting you to stand. Allah gave you the permission to sit.
No, I'm not. In fard prayers, I'm standing all the way, normal prayers.
In voluntary prayers or in
Taraweeh. In Taraweeh especially.
In Taraweeh, in voluntary prayers, in Sunnah prayers, you can sit from the very beginning. You have no problem with that at all.
And how I fix my hands, like standing position?
When sitting?
When sitting, like
yes. You put it on your chest.
On the chest,
Yes, correct.
Okay, and this long row in the taqiyya in the masjids, usually there is it permitted, sir?
Yeah. Either this or a chair. It's the same thing. It serves the same purpose.
Same purpose.
Okay?
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Hayyak Allah Abu Ma'ruf. Shawkat from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, one question.
Yes,
when
sir.
a lady takes a shower and she is now ready to pray, and if she happens to use these moisturizing cream and stuff like that, does it break the wudu?
If she uses what?
The moisturizers on the face, on the hands.
So a woman is in her wudu, and then she
Correct.
applies lotions on her face, body. Does it affect
Yes.
her wudu?
Correct.
No, it does not.
And the same thing applies to a man also when he uses
Yeah,
the
yeah.
aftershave.
Okay, let me tell you something, Shaukat. The things that nullify wudu are a handful. So if you learn them, this is why we emphasize on knowledge. I can give you a fish every single day. Sheikh, what is the ruling on doing this? Halal. What is the ruling on doing this? Haram. This would take a lifetime. I can give you a fish every single day. I'd rather teach you how to fish so you don't need to anyone to give you anything after today. So once you learn the things that nullify your wudu, Sheikh, what are the things that nullify my wudu? It is passing urine, defecating, passing wind, yani anything that comes out of your private part. It is sleeping. It is eating camel's meat. If you do any of these 5 things, then your wudu is nullified. The others are an issue of dispute. If I touch my wife, no problem. Except in the Shafi'i school of thought. The Prophet used to kiss his wife and goes to prayer without renewing his wudu, which means it is intact. Therefore, if you acknowledge this, and then you come and say, Sheikh, what's the ruling on smoking? Is my wudu intact? I said, Akhi, does it fall under the 5? She said, no, but it's sinful. Again, does it fall under the 5? She said, no, then khalas, you got your answer. Moisturizing my body as a man or as a woman, as long as I do not nullify or commit 5 of these things. One says, okay, what about touching the private parts? It's an issue of dispute. If one does it out of lust and desire, yes, it breaks the wudu. If not, it's an issue of dispute, and I believe that it doesn't affect your wudu, and so on. So I hope this answers your question, Shaukat. Bye. Sadia says, must we recite durud? Durud is the, I think, Urdu word for salutation upon the Prophet ﷺ. As-salatu ala nabi. So must we recite this both at the beginning and at the end? No, you must not. It is highly recommended in order for your dua to be accepted to do what the Prophet said ﷺ. He said that every dua is blocked between the earth and the heavens unless you pray and offer salutation to the Prophet ﷺ. So we say in the beginning, we praise Allah, we say Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammad, and then we make our dua. If you conclude your dua with another salutation, this is good, but it is not a must. Mamdouh from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I want to ask you, last I asked a question, but you misheard me, so I want to correct the question. Yeah, last I asked, my mom said something about me. It's not a lie. He said I did something good, and he said about me in public, and she wasn't lying. So, but she oversaid it, like something I didn't do. It's not like she's lying, or she's lying about what I did, but she oversaid it in the crowd to deceive those people there. So, and I feel bad. So, can I correct her? If I correct her, I will disgrace her, or should I send her later on? I can correct her in the house, home.
I answered, Mamdouh, I did answer you, my friend. You told me that your mother said lies about you. She said that you wet your bed at night, for example, or that you're stingy, you don't give her money, but you give her half of your salary. And she said lies about you. And you asked me, would it be disgracing my mother if I defended myself to the public, or if I go and correct her and told her, oh mother, why are you saying such bad things about me? You know that I did not do this. You know I did not meant anything bad about this. Yeah, I did not mean anything bad about this. and you go and tell her, is there anything wrong in that? I told you there is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong in correcting your mother to defend yourself. But if it is not going to affect you negatively, or just let it be, you can go to the people and tell them between you and themselves that, listen, what my mom said is total lie. I didn't do these things. I have done better things. And there's nothing wrong in that. But if you leave it for the sake of Allah, it is even better, inshallah, as long as there is no harm on you. Any more questions, Mamduh?
No, thank you, Sheikh.
Barakallah feek. Sadia says, well, we've gone through Sadia's question. Hashing says, there has been tendency of people to post different du'as for each day for Ramadan. Is this realistic for 29 or 30 days, different du'as each day? This can be answered in one of two. If you mean that these people say that du'a for day number 10 is specifically this du'a, you have to say this. You cannot say du'a number 9 on the 10th day, or the 11th day on the 10th day. And they prescribe a particular du'a for each and every day of Ramadan. This is total innovation. There is no such thing as a du'a for a day of Ramadan. But I don't think and I don't believe anyone would do this. What they might be doing, and you are misunderstanding it, is that every day they post an ayah for people to recite and to ponder upon, or to recite a dua, which is a beautiful dua, not related to today, which is the 14th of Ramadan. Any dua, any random dua would do. So they do this out of seeking the reward that we've shared a dua, something that is beneficial, that people may use and say. And this is permissible, and there's nothing wrong in that, inshallah. Abu Ma'ruf again.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir, I forgot to ask you something.
No problem.
Is it essential in Ramadan for Taraweeh, for the Imam, to finish the whole Musab Quran in the 13 juz? Is it necessary?
Okay, any more questions?
Because in the subcontinent, people, you know, they go to pray for 10 days. They say daily 3 juz, and 10 days Quran is over. Khalas, my Taraweeh is finished. I don't want to pray again.
Okay.
Maybe I will go or not. It's not necessary. I told them, no, it's not necessary to finish the Quran. You have to pray the Taraweeh for 30 days. It's better. It's a good sawab. That's all I want to ask you.
I will answer you, inshallah.
Appreciate. Thank you.
Barakallah feek. Abu Ma'ruf's question is clear. Lots of the masjids, including the Haramain in Mecca and Medina, recite 1 juz' per night. And this is something that is recommendable. It was recommended by the Prophet ﷺ when he instructed Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, to finish the Quran once a month. And this is done by reciting 1 juz' per night. So Taraweeh of Ramadan is like any other month. It is highly recommended to pray with 1 juz'. But is it a must? The answer is no. Is it a prerequisite? The answer is no. Is it logical that we finish it in the first 27 nights until so-called Laylatul Qadr, and the other 3 nights of the favored 10 nights of Ramadan we do not pray at all because we finished the Quran? This is illogical, and this becomes an innovation. This has no basis to it. But it is recommended to finish it once every night, that is 1 juz', so that you finish the whole Quran once a month at least. I know people who have finished their 3rd juz', their 3rd recitation of the Quran since Ramadan began. And some are in their 4th and maybe more. So this is a field for trying to gain more and more reward. Having said that, one has to be really careful. As we've stated in our first segment, when we talked about priorities, is it the quality we want or the quantity? Is it pondering upon the Quran, reading it, enjoying it, feeling its sweetness, having it touch your heart directly, or is it like the Ferrari Imams? And what is this? The Shaykh from 0 to 60 in 2.1 second. It's a new Tesla. What is this? This is not the Quran that Allah ordered us to recite. So people focus on quantity rather than quality, and this is wrong. If I were given the choice to finish the Quran or to hear 1/3 of the Quran or even a quarter of the Quran throughout the whole month of Ramadan, but in a nice, slow recitation that I can relate to and comprehend, definitely I would take the latter. The quantity is not of that great essential. I can do that on my own time, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Maisha says, if at the time of suhoor I'm in one city and for a job, if at the time of iftar I stay in another city, then for breaking fast, which city time should I follow? As in Bangladesh, time schedule varies from one city to the other. Again, this is answered by knowledge. As an individual, my name is Asim. As an individual, when do I refrain from eating and when do I break my fast? Regardless of the country I'm in, Allah tells me in the Quran that when I can distinguish between the white thread, the break of dawn, from the black thread, which is the whole night, then I have to refrain. This is Fajr time. So whether I am in Bangladesh or in Stockholm or in Djibouti, whether I'm on the ground or in the plane, the moment I can see the Fajr breaking, this is when I refrain. Regardless of my location, regardless of my place of destination or my departure. Also, when the sun sets, this is the time I break my fast, whether I'm in Dhaka or in Kerala or in Egypt, Cairo. It has no difference. Me and the sun is all what counts. The sun sets wherever I am, at sea or in air, this is when I break my fast. So I have to see it visually, or at least estimate, because sometimes I cannot see the break of dawn when I'm traveling to the west and the east is at my back in the airplane. So I have to try my level best to distinguish. Once it is distinguished, I have to stop, and I hope this answers your question. A sister says, I'm busy with children's exams, cooking, family issues, no spiritual feelings. I have little time for worshiping. I don't feel Ramadan. Kindly advise. If you fix your niyyah, your intention, and make these chores that you have to do for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, these are forms of worship. You can always remember Allah Azza wa Jal, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You can always find time before Salat and after Salat for half an hour to read the Quran, and this would help you finish the Quran in less than 6 or 7 days. So you have to improvise, and you will find that the sky is the limit. Samar from Saudi.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamatullah.
Actually, I just want to know the ruling regarding the ladies using misk and going to the mosque.
Okay, any more question?
No. Actually, my name is Qamar.
Qamar, okay, I apologize. Okay. Sister Qamar is asking about a question which is wearing misk, or musk, in Arabic we call it misk. Wearing musk and going to the masjid. This differs. If the musk can be smelt by others, specifically men, this is a major sin and it's totally prohibited. If it's a deodorant, if it is something little that no one can find the scent of, if you walk by them, it is permissible. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, and this is the main evidence, any woman who wears perfumes, and musk is one of them. Any woman who wears perfumes and walks by men and they find the scent and they can smell it, then she is as if she is a fornicator. Because men have little brains. They're easily affected. So the smell gives them fantasies and makes them think of so many things. And Islam protects the whole community. You'd like to wear musk or other perfumes in your home with your husband, with your mahrams, with other women, no problem. But when it comes to going out, the driver finding the smell, the people in the mall finding the smell, this is totally prohibited and a major sin. Muhammad says, we know that the first condition of someone's dua to be accepted is halal income. If income is not halal, is there salat, hajj, and all fard work accepted? Yes, they are accepted because they are different to his income. So your prayer, your fasting is halal. Your hajj, if performed with haram money, it's an issue of dispute. The most authentic opinion that it is not accepted if it's totally pure haram, and Allah knows best. Farhan says, my question is regarding zakat. My father has no source of income for the past 2 years, and does he need to pay zakat on the lease amount a tenant has paid for staying in our house for a few years, which has to be returned back to the tenant once he decides to leave? Akhi, this transaction is riba based. The tenant is not leasing, he's not renting. The tenant has given your father a lump sum, which is a loan. And he is staying in the house for free, and this is the interest on the loan. Once he wants to leave, he takes the loan back again. This is totally prohibited, and your father has to cancel this and return the money back. Vanilla says, what is the ruling on giving zakat for a shop with electrical products? If you have an electrical products shop, every single year after one lunar year passes, you have to estimate the value of the products you're selling at that particular day and give 2.5% over it. A sister says, I'm married a woman and I live in a joint family. My father-in-law's brothers live downstairs. Essentially, they want her to come and sit in a mixed gathering whenever guests come to her husband's house. So they want her to sit with them. And her husband says, it's okay, you have to obey my father. She says, what to do? Your husband and your father-in-law, they are not real men. They don't have jealousy in them. No husband would allow his wife to come and sit with non-mahram like this. And you have to disobey them big time. And if he insists that you come down and mix with his cousins and with his relatives who are non-mahram to you, it is best for you to file for divorce, because this is not a real man. You're not married to someone with jealousy. Any Muslim, proper Muslim, would have this jealousy in his heart towards his wife, daughter, sisters, and mother. And if they don't, they're not real men. And finally, Fazreen says, a classmate from university asked me why Islam prohibits shaking hands. And I said to him, and I gave him the example that even the Queen of England, it's illegal to touch her part from certain individuals. What would be the correct answer? What you have said is true. You gave them the Islamic verdict that Allah made it prohibited, and you gave them the logical explanation that even on earth there are certain individuals that find it offensive and not permissible to touch, like the one you have mentioned, and this is totally okay, inshallah. This is all the time we have until we meet same time tomorrow. I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل إنني هداني ربي إلى صراط مستقيم دينا قيما ملة إبراهيم حنيفا وما كان من المشركين